Folks, welcome to the Monday morning report number 15, The Measure of a Man. This is a different kind of report than I've done before. It's not about the technology, it's about my social interactions. And I'm surprised that it got me up this morning. So basically, we're going to follow this format. You can certainly skip ahead or back if you want to whatever sections you deem appropriate. And similar terms and conditions, although this information is based on my life experience. So um, make no mistake, I advocate social responsibility. I do not advocate revolution or conflict. Strongly advocate making informed decisions when you cannot seek to expand your perspective beyond the limitations of the situation you are in. Healing is the highest form of combat. There's no such thing as miracles. There are only truths you have yet to understand. The social oubliette. So I'm enjoying this particular format to kick this thing off here. So this is all about an email exchange I had with the editor-in-chief of The Week magazine. I was inspired to write my first letter to any editor after reading from what I considered a comprehensive news publication, an opinion by Bill Falk that advocated nuclear power to counteract global warming. I consider this a rational conclusion if you have not done the research to understand that global warming is a misdirect and nuclear power has already demonstrated it is very bad, unnecessary choice for life, and an unnecessary choice for life on this planet. Therefore, I hope to introduce at least a crack in this erroneous gap of logic, which violates the process of scientific discovery. Instead, I got an ad hominem attack and a request to never email Bill again, to which I acknowledge the change in topic and compliance will follow, of course. There's a lesson here. I think it's important. To what degree and in which role we picture or determine for our lives, and how do we engage responsibly? Or how do we engage responsibility? So the social model of reality here, again, sticking with the past format, I will never forget as a sophomore in high school riding in a family trip with friends when a classmate of mine on the trip, who was more of a linguist, quite a brilliant person in his own right, asked his father how a car battery worked. Now, I knew something of batteries and was ready to answer that question, right? Talk about the electricity and it generates and so forth. When his father just started to reply by stating that the active ingredient in a battery was acid. And I had to think for a moment because, in fact, that, of course, is true. It's fundamental and a critical thing anybody looking at batteries should understand. You know, it's quite dangerous. So I was just hit with a moment of insight that this was a much better answer than I was coming up with my limited education. Um, so he then explained the chemistry of the sulfuric acid with the lead and the migration, which was much more in depth than I would have presented at that particular time. But it was a completely different approach to the question than I was formulating, and I was ready to talk about how electrons were produced, skipping the physical stuff that you see up front when looking at a battery. So this surprised me. I mean, here was a salesman giving an arguably better explanation of what was going on than I would have done, talking about the electrical properties in abstract form. And it was an answer that was coming from someone who was quite successful selling industrial rubber products. So obviously this topic was not part of his world or what he spent his time dealing with as a professional. It was both impressive and inspiring. So socially, the better approach to understanding was to know about physical things from the physicality up, not just abstract models that school teaches or taught me. And even salesmen can be really good educators, and it turned out to be a significant portion of the job description, having become a salesperson later in life. So don't be afraid to learn things that are unrelated to your job, and expect that you probably may understand them better than people that have been educated in those particular topics. So here's what I did. I apparently forgot that or applied that to somebody who's in a very prominent position with a great deal of responsibility, right? So this is a person whose job is, in fact, to influence people, and he's in that position. So I got a free copy of the week. They mail it to me ever since I discontinued my subscription some years ago. So occasionally I get one. This is the March 15th issue, number 915. And after reading through the whole magazine, doing the Sudoku, having a good time, enjoy the news, the political statements, the various contrasting opinions. I got to the editor's letter and I read this, and I recommend you read it too. It's complete nonsense, and recommends that we embrace nuclear power, which is just, in my mind, craziness. But it's based on the argument that global warming is happening, which, of course, as you know, if you've seen my other videos, is also something that's just complete craziness. So now the week put together in the past a really nice article that detailed some of the dangers of nuclear power, and of course going the other way. But this man's trying to turn it around and discount all that work. He mentions only a movie, The China Syndrome, as if movies weren't real, and also mentions, I believe, that this was before or at the same time of 3 Mile Island in '79 or in the '70s. Uh, but since then, what we're looking at Chernobyl and Fukushima, which is currently dumping radiation on the beaches of Hawaii. Uh, what is this man's head? So anyway, I wrote him an and this email is quite uh, detailed. It's probably bigger than his opinion. So I doubt at this point that he actually read it. He probably looked at the first few lines, which questioned his thinking, and decided that he wasn't going to be questioned and responded. But I would ask you to try to read this and see if you don't agree. Hopefully, you see that what I intended to do was simply point out a few key facts, refer to some really well documented references that he could spend just a little bit of time, or put his staff of researchers, which he clearly has working on that magazine, to produce the level of information that he does, and come up with a more informed opinion. But at least, and I ask this directly, allow an alternate opinion to be expressed so that people who do have the awareness or the intelligence can at least be engaged. And with all respect, I mean, other than asking the questions that were rather pointed about his awareness and education and understanding, but beyond that, it was, I thought, a fairly well written email. So the facts aside, so the facts are, of course, that warmer climates kill less people than colder climates, which is something that he claimed wasn't the case. CO2 is not pollution, which of course he also claims is not the case, and nuclear waste is a significant pollution that we have no alternative for. Of course, with today's technology, there is a solution to it, but that is denied by science and the government to protect the industry. So the science lies, right? Electricity does not need to be not to consume resources to be produced, and nuclear pollution can be eliminated. but it's much harder to control and contain and even deal with because of its invisible nature. I mean, we have no way of smelling or seeing or other than reacting to it after it's too late. So not a friendly thing to willingly make for any intelligent person, and it's a sad thing that we actually do it just again for the money. So. As I said, the email, as you've seen, the email is much longer and more detailed. And the reason for this was that the argument is not something that can be resolved by general statements. I mean, when people are lying, general statements are meaningless. So the only by examining facts behind the rhetoric will you discover the truth. And knowing this reality in today's world is not a surprise to anyone, is it? I mean, we all know these things, right? People spin lies, and you have to look behind the lies to determine the facts. So this is what I received back, and if you read it, you'll see that he refers to evolution and suggesting that I'm like these people that don't believe in evolution. Now, I actually do believe in evolution, but probably not the way he understands it. It is a result of these the coming global changes, the extinction events where the geomagnetic field falls down, the sun's magnetic field changes, and we are inundated with cosmic rays to the effect of altering the gene structure in living beings. And yes, evolution is natural selection because the ones that get the alterations that are non-viable die, and the ones that have it spring forth. And this is well documented if you look through the paleontological history of the planetary sediments, right? I mean, you'll see that life stops. There's an extinction event, and then what comes from that is just an explosion of new life. So it's not survival of the fittest in straight understanding of each one competing against the other. It is, in fact, survival of the mutated. So that's what evolution is. But I doubt that he even knows that. Um, it's more stuff that he doesn't know that he's reacting to, and he essentially just claims I must be a nutter, and he doesn't want to hear from me again. Which I'm happy not to talk with this man, for sure. But I felt obligated to respond to this to identify exactly what's going on because he shifted the whole argument here. So, and this is where I'm at today, and I really want your opinion on this if you're willing to share it. So I wrote back, this is my last email. However, it's on the topic you responded to, not the one I originally addressed. I would ask, who is the nutter? The one who engages a discussion based on scientific research, proven replications of experimental constructs to validate hypotheses, or the one who responds to ad hominem attacks? We all are welcome to our opinions. It's the actions and consequences of our actions in society that matter and express the measure of a man. So I really am sorry I expected the one with your job title to be more engaged at this level of intellect. I learned something today and wanted to thank you for the feedback. It is an important lesson I will share. Have a great week. And that's really where I'm at. I just wanted to share this with you and get your opinion. I mean, when it comes down to it, what we do for each other is really the most significant thing that we can contribute. So, as Bill and Ted said often, be good to one another and party on, dude. Thank you. Have a great time. Take care.